Are we ready?
Yes, we are.
My name is Odie Hawkins. Should I say that?
Yes, you should.
My name is Odie Hawkins, and this evening I thought I'd do something a little bit different. I've been talking about how we read excerpts from novels last year. Zola, do you remember that?
I certainly do
do
remember that, Odie Hawkins.
Of course, you were there filming it, so how could you
Yes,
forget?
I should hope not.
I've been asked by a number of our friends, Odie, tell us something, a little bit about yourself. You're doing all this self-publicizing and everything, but you don't seem to be saying a whole lot about yourself. You have these books that you say might be facets of who you are and so forth, but we don't really get a real sense of who you are coming straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. I think, frankly, that some of them, several of them, are just putting me on, but I decided to take up the challenge. And rather than start reading from short stories today, I thought I would spend a few minutes talking about how I became a writer.
That's a good idea.
How I became a writer. There's some convoluted circumstances behind it. But let me start it off like this. As an intro, I'm giving this reading, this little talk, in response to a request from a number of friends who have suggested that I talk a little bit about myself, about how I became a writer. I'm being redundant, but I want to put down what I had as a brief outline. I thought I'd cover this pretty well in the 30-odd books that I have floating around out there. Google OdieHawkins.com. But just in case I left something out, I'm going to start right here, just before I made it to kindergarten and onward. A lot of people find, I know you've said, how could you remember what happened when you were 6 years old, so forth. To me, I don't remember birth. But one of the things I do remember was trying to T-bone a car with my little body when I was about, when did you get your last teeth? 6, 7?
I think it's a little later than that, but go ahead.
Okay, I think about 6 or 7.
Maybe you had your first set of children's teeth.
Your first set of children.
Children's teeth, maybe 6 or...
It's 6.
Well,
I must have been about that age. I'd like to say that I come from broken circumstances, but not from broken people. All the people I can think of, going all the way through, were strong people.
Okay.
Circumstances might have been broken, but not the people. I don't know how or what the circumstances were that placed me and my sister in my Uncle Eddie's house. I had 5 uncles. I had 5 uncles. I don't know what the circumstances were that placed us in his basement on the north side of Chicago about 1942, when Wells and Oak Street had, before it became Old Town, the bohemian section of town, it was the slum section of town, and that's where we lived, in the basement. I was playing Catch Me, or something like that kids do, with a little girl named Ernestine. Ernestine was chasing me. My mother had previously told me a number of times, do not run out in the street between the cars. If you have to go across the street, go to the corner, wait for the light to change, and go across the street. On this occasion, I was having so much fun with Ernestine chasing me that I just ran out from between 2 cars and right into the side door of a limousine that was passing by. That would be a limousine. And I would not probably be sitting here telling this story if I had run out in the street 2 seconds earlier. I would have been run over. And I say I T-boned the side of the car because it seemed like my memory started happening at the time I was first knocked out. That was the first time I can remember. I ran out, bounced off with the car, went down to the sidewalk, and immediately, the people in the neighborhood came to see the little dead boy. Well, I wasn't dead. I was in La La Land. I'm not talking about L.A. I was in Dream Street. I was seeing these beautiful images and butterflies floating around. As a monarch butterfly lover, you can relate to
I can
where I
relate
was
to that, yeah.
buzzing. And I heard somebody say, well, he's still breathing. It just so happened that the people whose car I dented the side of the door, they took me to Henroten Hospital. And I must have been a tough little boy because, well, there were no fractures. And I believe they gave my mother some advice. Take him home, keep him in bed for 2 or 3 days, give him some aspirin. And that was that. My mother kept me indoors for 2 or 3 days. Being very solicitous. How you feel, baby? How you feel? I'm okay, okay. By the second day, I was ready to get back out there and start running around with Ernestina again. By the time we got to the third day, I was feeling that I was going to break the rules and sneak out if she didn't let me out. And my mother had excellent timing about certain things. How do you feel now? So I'm feeling, I want to get out there. And she had this belt. Somewhere it looked like a barber's belt that they sharpen razors on.
That was a popular instrument for parents and grandparents at the time.
Okay, I don't know where they got it from.
I don't know where they got it, but too many of them had one.
Too many. Maybe she borrowed it from the local barber shop or something. In any case, we were in a small space, and luckily I was agile enough to be able to run around and duck in corners and so forth and so on. But she laid a few licks on me. She laid a few very definite licks on me. Enough for me to remember for many, many years thereafter, not to cross in the middle of the streets.
There you go.
And to always walk down to the corner and cross at the light. Okay, that was one of the first memories I could have of being knocked out. And from that point on, it seems that we had a blizzard of moves happening. Part of it, I don't know, but part of it had to do with the fact that my mother was 16 when I was born, my father was 18. And, for a long while I just felt that I was a love child. But then I saw the birth certificate to the marriage thing. She was from Helena, Arkansas, a little town outside of Little Rock, and he was from Yazoo City, Mississippi. So I always thought of him as a black warrior from Mississippi because he's a beautiful black man. And my mother was this little lemon yellow woman from Arkansas. And they made a combustible, they were a combustible couple. It was either all love or all war. Meanwhile, while all this was going on, they seemed not to be willing to curtail their life and just raise kids because they had a lot of other things to do. So we were passed around. I looked up and I'm living with Mr. and Miss Sweet, get to them in a minute. And she was my sister was staying with a woman named Miss Willie. Meanwhile, my mother and father were somewhere else. And we saw them it was something that was, we called it up south culture, where people would say things like, what you gonna do with that boy? Give him to me. And it was no adoption in a formal sense of the word. But you look up and you be staying with some people who were big, like Mr. and Miss Sweet, became my grandparents, and they were no relation to them. They knew my mother, and they wanted to have me. Miss Willie wanted to have my sister. So I'm staying with Mr. and Mrs. Miss Sweet and Mr. Willie on 35th and Wentworth, down the street from White Sox Park, I remember. I was going to school then.
This is in Chicago.
In Chicago.
Yes.
All over Chicago. I knew Chicago intimately. We walked around. I'm staying with Miss Sweet, Mr. Jimmy, who were the sweetest people in the world. They indulged me. Mr. Jimmy made blueberry, blackberry pies for me. Miss Sweet knew I liked fried fish, so she fried fish. They always had a nice apartment. I found out years later that both of them had been very active in various other ways, but they had changed their lifestyle. And Mr. Jimmy was working at the Eagle Laundry, and Miss Sweet was the homemaker. They had a nice home. They had two sons, Walt and Dyke, Walt and James, who were both juvenile delinquents.
Wow.
Walter was always a dope fan from earliest times I can remember. Dyke, James, was a thief.
Oh.
I'm going zigzag in the way that it happened because that's the best and only way I can tell it. I hung out with James, for example, and his buddies after dark. Come on, man, go with us. I was a little boy, I was a little athlete. They would take me to places. They would wanted to steal out of junkyards for something or other. And on one occasion, I remember, they threw me over a fence. I don't know how I was supposed to land, but you know, we talked about it. So okay, what we're gonna do, it wasn't too high, but it was, you know, so land on your feet, that's what he told me.
Land on your feet, okay.
Land on your feet.
Circus du Soleil in the ghetto.
I would have made Cirque du Soleil without even thinking about it.
Right, of course.
Land on your feet. And I took that information. Okay.
Okay.
I programmed it. Okay. Land on your feet. Just so happened, I flipped over the fence and landed on my feet.
Yeah.
And about 20 yards right over there was this huge German Shepherd dog with his paws crossed, who looked up, you know how the ears perk up, and he looked at me with the most intelligent look I can ever remember. It was light enough for me to say, like, do you know what I'm getting ready to do to you? Do you? Like the Richard Pryor said about the two cheetahs.
Yes.
Okay, let me get my stuff together. He was taking his second breath, and I started running up this fence, and I got to the top and grabbed it, and go back over the side, and they caught me. There's a dog inside. Oh, okay. So we go on to the next place. That was the kind of adventurous stuff that was happening. And then I looked up and, I don't know, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, I'm living in Aunt Mary's house on the west side in the basement. In between times, we had moved from here to there. In Aunt Mary's house on the west side, 1150 West Washburn, on the near west side, I must have been, I don't know, 10 or 12, something like that, because I was going to Smith School, 6th grade, 5th grade.
Right.
And Mary ran a gambling house from Friday night till she went to church on Sunday morning. There were, I don't know how many people lived in the basement. We had a front room. We had a big all-purpose middle room. I think it had formerly been the washer room of the base of the building or something. And then they had two so-called bedrooms. It may have been a storage space that they cleaned out and made an apartment. It was rat-ridden. When I read about people talking about living in a ghetto or something, I always read carefully to see when they mention rats. If they don't mention rats, they just live in a ghetto.
Yeah.
I mean, by definition, rats are ghetto. Ghetto, ghetto, ghetto. They slept with us in the wintertime because they're smart and they realize that's where the warmth was.
Right.
So you might wake up and feel something hairy nestling next to your leg, and the best thing to do is just lay there. Because if you mess with them, they might bite you. Chicago rats are known to be carnivorous and omnivorous. So they married with the gambling going on and all of the characters. In the meantime, I started listening to people's stories. my uncles, Uncle Percy, Uncle Eddie, Uncle Eugene, Uncle John, and my father were great storytellers. And they officially labeled it lying. All right, come on, let's hear you lie. You know, and they'd sit around the stove when they were all there at one point, before the gambling started on Friday night.
Right.
And sometimes tell each other, so, oh, that ain't the way it happened. And then he'd tell his version of the story. I became beguiled. I was enchanted by listening to these Mississippi storytellers. You know, sometimes they talk, and I'm edging forth. I'm a first generation Northerner, which meant that I was losing. Maybe I never had an ear for the muddy waters twang of it. Now you know that Maine did say nothing like that. Tell him how he said it, Mary.
Yes.
You know, and things.
Uh-huh.
And they be telling each other secret jokes. What's funny about that? I can't understand. Boom! I look up and go from St. Mary's to some other place. My father, I found out, was in the penitentiary. We went to see him for 5 years and 8 months. So he was off the scene while I was staying at St. Mary's with his older sister. And that's probably the reason why we were staying there. And it was like being, I found out when I went to Ghana for the first time, to Africa, it was like being in Africa. I mean, we didn't see white people but seldom.
Okay.
The guy who owned the Mr. Denoff, who had the store at the corner, some white people would come through the neighborhood for different reasons.
But not.
I don't even remember the police coming other than to visit a Mary to collect their bribes on Friday, Saturday night. And she was very instrumental in having me understand how corrupt a corrupt place can be. You know, we're laying in the bed in the front room and she brings Tarzan and Shortcoat. That was the slang name for these two guys. One of us looked like Tarzan, the other looked like Shortcoat. And she's telling them, you know, I ain't made no money yet. Y'all come here too soon. Now, if you come on back later, I'll give you something. So, you know, come on, Mary, you can, you know, we know you got this game going on. I ain't trying to deny we got the game going on, but the game ain't happening yet. Now, if you want to have $10 to split between y'all, I can give you that right now. But I can't give you nothing else because I ain't made no money yet. You know, you trying to put the poor woman out of business for it. I done got into business. $10, you offer us a $10 bribe, so I keep it up and I ain't gonna give you nothing. Well, all right, but we'll be back later. So, well, you know, come on back later. If I made some money, I'll up you. I'll up you, Annie. He's talking to the police like that. You know, wow, that was an education. I guess as a testimonial to the fact that I'm in a place where the situation is broken, but the people are not broken. Also makes, you know what I'm saying? Everybody had pride and so forth and so on. We look up and we've moved again. The moving took place so frequently that at one point I had gone to 17 grammar schools and I could remember them in sequence at one point. And then I began to, you know, lose track.
Of course.
Of course. How did this happen? What does this have to do with the influence of writing? Well, first of all, I'd like to say that it offered me the characters, and it offered me the texture and the feeling and the location for different kinds of behaviors that you couldn't find anywhere else. I mean, I can remember people in those really ghetto circumstances with the IQs of geniuses.
Okay.
You know,
like had a lot of mother with.
That's the point. They may not have been academically acute, but they had good sense.
Right.
And they, you know, passed some of it along to me, I'm sure. Although
sure.
you and other people might deny that that's the case.
No, I think
I'm just joshing with you. Just joshing with you.
I'm glad.
By the time I wound up at Forestville High School, what is that, 15, when you graduate from 8th grade? You go to high school in Chicago, I think it's 8th grade.
Okay.
Either 8th grade or 10th grade, I can't remember. All look up. At one point, I was staying back with Miss Sweet and Mr. Jimmy.
Okay.
And it was time to graduate from Forestville High School. Okay. Right there on 45th or 45th, Forestville Junior, Forestville Grammar School or 45th
Grammar
and
School.
St.
Okay,
Louis.
right, okay, yeah, okay.
Forestville, matter of fact. We joked about it. They had a principal there. It was an old white man who looked like Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, Lord.
Who spoke. I never would. The guy used to, we would be at assemblies. We were young kids,
right.
full of, and he would have to say some words about something, whatever it was. And he would put us to sleep. Now, boys and girls, I want to say to you that you are here at Forest Hill.
Oh, yeah.
I graduated.
Right.
What do we do now? What do we do now? We've been going from place to place. We moved to Bourne Avenue and wound up in the basement of a building called the Bourne Hotel. It wasn't a Bourne Hotel. I started off going to high school from that basement, and then for some reason we wound up moving to 3800 Lake Park and the Alma Hotel, which was not a hotel either.
Okay, was any of those close to your high school?
From Bourne, from the Alma Hotel.
Right.
I started off from the Bourne Hotel basement, and then for some reason, I don't know, I could go into hours of what it was like living in that basement that was infiltrated by dope fiends who brought us filet mignons for $1 a piece, who would steal the sweetness out of a ginger cake and bring it home to you and sell it to you for whatever it was take when the habit was on them. We moved from that. We went to the Alma Hotel. The first and second floors of the Alma Hotel were what you call transit. Which meant that
tell me, break it down.
The employed sex workers,
yes,
from around the corner,
women of the night and day.
Oh, you know a little bit about them. They occupied the first and second floors at strategic times of the evening, but especially on the weekends.
Gotcha.
Meanwhile, the square people lived on the third floor mostly, and the reclining pimps and I should say ladies of the evening who were off duty spent their time sitting around just waiting to go on duty. And I ran errands for them, made nice little coins. I'm going to high school.
Right.
All I can say is that I related to all that was happening because I could see that living the square life only meant one thing. You work for a long time and not get anywhere. I have to give my daddy, who made it clear that he was not a father, he was a daddy.
Right.
Fathers, he said, fathers make you do what they want you to do. Daddies let you do whatever you want to do. However, he had one caveat.
What's that?
Don't get caught. Do whatever you want to
Fair.
do. Just don't get caught.
Fair.
When we went to visit him at Statesville Penitentiary, Joliet, Illinois, he made that plain. You see where I am? You'll be in here if you get caught. He was not judgmental. I could do anything within reason. Without reason, don't get caught. My mother was somewhat a law and order type. Isn't that a contradiction?
Yes.
She's saying if I stole something and brought it home, she never questioned it. But she didn't teach me to steal. She didn't say steal.
Okay.
And in some ways she was against lawlessness, despite the fact she was as lawless as she could be, whatever she wanted to be. I think my mother was bipolar.
Right.
And if I
They're hard times, being pregnant that young and raising a child.
raising 16, two kids.
Right, yeah. She does enough to make people go upside down.
No skills
right.
other than just home wit. I mean, at one point in the Alma Hotel, she was selling wine for $60 a pint. Everybody was drinking Italian Swiss Scotland and wine. It was the alcohol.
How much a pint?
60 cents.
Oh, 60 cents. Okay.
And she was buying it for 50 cents. I see it now, the little box of 12, and you're supposed to make a dime profit off each bottle. And she was never making any money because some of it, she would give it away, you know, to her good friends who never paid her. She was a gambler. If she made any money at all, if she had any money left on her check, because we were on relief, if she had any money left on her check, she would shoot craps, play cards. She and Martha, whom you met, they would bet, if it was raining, they would bet that one raindrop would come down the window before the other. I mean, just, I think what they call it, gambling addiction.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to high school from that place, and in my first semester at DuSable High School, 49th and State Street, I did something stupid, swinging on the basketball frame and fractured my right ankle, which kept me out of school for a whole semester, which I had to repeat later. When I got back in school, I was really, you know, geared up to do something.
Right.
So, of course, I was already stealing.
Stealing?
I'm sure that there's no statute of limitation that could get me now. And if that's what it's going to be, then that's what it's going to be. I was stealing in order to try to make my ends meet. And I figured out the way to do it. Anything that was left open was open, like girls' purses and so forth and so on. But at the beginning of my sophomore year, I discovered another hustle. Because of Nat King Cole and the doo-wop scene and people all just giving themselves out of their soulful souls with poetry and so forth and so on. In order to get yourself a girlfriend, you would have to write her a note. And this is the way it happened. This is the way it happened. I'm walking down to the school hallway with a friend of mine. And he turns to look at this cutie pie. I'm looking over here at this open locker, you know, who left it our locker open. He looks around at the cutie pie and, you know, wow, look at that. And, you know, what? The cutie pie. I think her name was Zolena or something like that. Something close to that. And I'm saying to him, well, talk to her. Oh, no, man, you know, you got to write her a note. Write her a note. I said, I can't write. So, well, I'll write it for you. Yeah? How much would you charge? $1? Okay. So I wrote my first
love letter.
I was, what would they call it? What was it? The Cyrano de Bergerac. I became a literary Cyrano de Bergerac. I wrote his note, and next thing I know, I see him walking down the hall with the cutie pie.
Oh, of course.
I can't remember. So I got into it.
Silver tongue, huh?
$1 for an ordinary, $2 for an extraordinary, $3 for an exotique, and $4 for an outrageous. Outrageous was 3 pages maybe of just, the stuff was so florid and so gorgeous.
I bet it was.
It was hyperbolic.
I bet it was.
It was hype.
But okay, so you wrote the letter, but
I had these guys rewrite them.
Okay.
From, yeah, no.
Okay, so you made sure.
I got caught the first a couple of times somebody said, wait a minute, this ain't his handwriting.
Right. Okay.
So I made the stipulation. I even found out that I can use one case as an example. The guy wrote the note for couldn't recopy because he couldn't read. I don't know, he got somebody that, I told him, I can't use my handwriting because that's going to mess my business up. If too many people see my handwriting, they'll know, because my handwriting is distinctive, like anybody who writes with their own handwriting. But, you know, that was kind of an experience. Most people could take the time to just rewrite what I wrote.
Of course.
And I'm telling you, there's some clumsy mistakes in it.
Retype, pasted, and cut, and sent with your email.
Excuse me?
Right, yes.
Do what?
Today it would be...
Type and paste and cut.
They would have typed it, pasted it, or have you typed it to them, and then they pasted and put it in their email, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but that would not happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Type.
But it's nothing like a handwritten note.
No, nothing like it.
Okay, with some perfume on it.
All I can tell you is that I scored the majority of the time. The few times it completely failed was, I remember one that I wrote the note for the guy. He could write.
Right.
So he copied it and gave it to this girl that he was trying to get close to, and she wrote him a very decent, I never will forget her. Her name was Jackie. Jackie wrote him another little letter back saying, sorry pal, I already have a girlfriend. And that was
surprise,
like,
surprise, surprise, way back then. You know,
he said, what do you think she mean by that? He said, oh, don't you always see her with Geraldine? Or, we lesbian? What's that mean? No, well, everybody knew what lesbian, but to us, the teenage girl was, well, she had to be hetero, but a lot of them were. Anyway, I'm doing this to earn a few bucks. At the same time, I had gotten a gig as a delivery boy working on the north side, out of the Drake Hotel, out of the Carnegie Drugs, and the first level of the Drake Hotel. I was still stealing, and the Drake Hotel, working in a drugstore, was the perfect way and the perfect place to do it. They didn't have any kind of security about anything. In addition to that, I got to know a little bit about the near north side, Oak and Michigan Avenue, and
beautiful. That was the first time you were exposed to that type of environment.
Totally. I mean, rich. You know, you're talking about the Gold Coast.
Right.
So here I am delivering drugs. Paregoric, I found out was very popular with a lot of very well-to-do people. I'm delivering drugs, but at the same time, you're making little connections. I go and deliver something to Luigi's Deli, very exclusive little deli that, you know, was about as big as this room, and so exquisite things, you know, imported from here and there. And Luigi says, hey kid, are you going to be passing by 215 Chestnut? I said, yeah. Drop this package off at 215, ask for Miss Snoogles de Snoogie, or whatever her name was. You know, okay. If you get any grief, just tell the doorman that you're delivering for Luigi. So I deliver this package to Miss Snoogie de Snoogie. She tucks $5 into my pocket.
Oh, nice.
Luigi gives me $2 to deliver the thing.
Right.
I made $7. I made my, and I'd go on, and so I was, you know, I would go out to deliver something and come back an hour and a half later, because I had gone over here to take this. I was a delivery man. I'm going everywhere, man. Well, the drugstore.
And primarily running, right? Or
I was running.
yes.
I ran everywhere. I ran. They would send me to deliver something at Sheridan Road from Oak Street and Michigan Avenue to Sheridan Road and Outer Drive is from about here from where we are to Bixby Park.
Whoa.
And I ran. Deliver stuff.
But you were at 15?
15, 16, you know,
Okay, so you
man,
had nothing but energy.
yeah, nothing but.
But then you didn't have enough food to eat either. Well, you were stealing food to eat, so.
I was stealing. I was stealing condoms out of the top drawer and selling them to people in high school. I was doing my part for parental conservation.
Oh, okay.
Everybody, I could make sure we didn't have any unwanted children at the high school.
They
could count on me. People came to me for their sheepskin thins.
There you go.
The onion skin thins.
Onion skin thins.
Okay, what is it? What am I gonna do in my life? Well, I'm gonna be a thief. I can see that. I was up for that. The writing, that's made a little money.
But then, and then, what was the crux that switched everything around?
There you go. Thank you for helping along on this. Give me a little key. I can't go on much longer because if I do, I will have failed my purpose, which is give you a short version.
Yes, but at 85,
I got 5 minutes.
Okay, at 85,
I got 5 minutes.
Okay.
I looked up and I'm writing an outrageous in this art class I was in. And this teacher, Dr. Margaret Burroughs, she wasn't a doctor then. Mrs. Burroughs reached over my shoulder, took the note that I was writing for, what's his name, read it, had me come up to her desk after the class was over and everybody was snickering him. She caught you, she caught you, she caught you.
Right.
She said to me, I want you to go to this writing class that's run by my friend Margaret Peterson at 51st Street. You know where that is, yes?
Yeah.
51st and South Parkway. It's King Drive now. The Baptist Center. It was like the Watts House Art Center. I want you to go there. She had writing class on Friday night. If you don't go, I'm going to fail you.
Whoa.
That's how no-nonsense she was.
Yeah.
So I went, and I don't know if you can get close enough to see. This is Dr. Margaret Burroughs.
Let's see if I can.
I think she was about 96 when this picture was taken. This was in 2006. And the guy sitting behind her, of course, is me.
Okay. Let's see. Pull it just a little bit forward if you can. Put a little bit over here and then up again. There we go.
I'm making a point to show this, is to show
that you actually were together.
what kind of influence, well, you met her when we went to Chicago in 2006, but to show you the influence that a great teacher can have.
Yes.
When she told me, look, I know what you're doing, you don't have to go to jail, you can write. I went to Mrs. Peterson's class, and to be frank with you, never looked backwards. From that point on, I had not solved all my life's problems. I probably never will. But it meant that I could express myself and get some of this frustration off of me. I could invent a life that I was not living, but you know, I could feed on.
Who were the other teachers that influenced you?
Oh man, at DuSable, they had like I call it an Afrocentric core. Dr. Walter Mosley, I'm not Walter Mosley, I can't think of his first name, but Mr. Mosley taught commercial law, big guy, looked like Duke Ellington with a cane. Mrs. Burns, Coach Jim Brown was his name.
Oh, okay.
You know, who was teaching us to be cruel and hard. You know, we played football on the gravel lot next door. I mean, in a lot across the street from the school. Can you imagine that thing? Tackle football on the gravel. I have little scratches and scars on me from that time now.
Who did you play with? What was one of your playmates?
One of them is a friend of mine who lives here in Long Beach now, Palmer Mitchell. Was one of them. We date back from high school together.
What was his position?
What
position did he have?
Me?
Yeah, what were your positions?
My position, I was a halfback.
Oh.
I was a true halfback.
Mm-hmm.
They used to call them scatbacks.
Okay.
And the reason I was a scatback is because I was running away from other people, and it made me look good. Truth of the matter is I was scared shitless.
And what was his position?
He was a tackle.
He-
Palmer was offensive tackle.
Ah.
Big guy, 6'1".
Mm-hmm.
He played semi-pro ball out here in California for a while.
Okay.
But she solved the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to graduate from DuSable a half a semester later, a semester later,
Right.
because I didn't have the credits from having a broken leg in the first semester.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I made it out of high school
Mm-hmm.
and tried my best to go to Wilson Junior College for a year.
Wow.
But going to any college was just beyond my resources. Luckily, I wound up
Plus
getting
the
a job at the
structure was
post
hard
office.
for you, wasn't it? Because you like to read books independently. You like to read for the knowledge
I had no choice.
as opposed to the,
Yeah, I
the
had-
structure.
When people say now, oh, I wish I had time to read, I don't really know how to relate to that, because if you don't have time to read,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of stuff you won't know.
Right.
Even in this digital age, in this
Mm-hmm.
AI age,
Yeah.
if you don't read it, you're gonna have a robot behind you reading it and then wind up directing you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at what's that?
Well,
You
you're a
think- you
member
think-
of the Writers Guild of American West, and they're on strike right now.
Yeah. Oh, that's one of the big things, because they know
Mm-hmm.
that if a producer
Mm-hmm.
is able to involve artificial intelligence on a project, all he's got to do is take the basic plot out of one of these books. I don't care if it's From Here to Eternity or War and Peace or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Feed the information to the artificial intelligence and come out with the script that he wants without paying a living writer a cent.
That's crazy.
And
That's crazy.
but I think it would gradually get to the point where the artificial intelligences will be demanding
More money too.
And I can see about 50 robots clanking around Paramount Studios saying,
working.
"We
conditions,
want,
right.
we want money for streaming. We want money, So look, I'm going to end that at this point.
Okay, but
But and
that's the
is that what you
foundation.
wanted, Alfred? Is that what you wanted? The whole story, nothing but the story. So help me. On my cup, I've got, I'll solemnly swear that I am up to no good. But I am up to some good. I'm sorry, you were saying?
You are up to a lot of good with the teaching of Tai Chi, with the writing of books, with the trying to help people who ask for your advice and giving them good sound advice. Being
Like
a friend.
yourself, what is the point of getting old if you're going to stuff all of that knowledge you've learned into a little bowl labeled self-indulgence?
Right. Yeah.
Let's give it up a little bit. Let's give it up.
Yes,
You do it. You do it. I mean, how
yin
many
and
times do I
yang.
listen to you every day, every week, tell various people different things that are doing them some good. It's doing them some good, I know, because they call back.
Well, also, as my George Beverly Shea on the if I can help somebody along the way, then my living is not in vain. However, I do like the quote I saw today where it said, if somebody wrongs you, be good and forgive them, but be smart
Forgive
enough.
them for what?
Forgive them for offending you, but be smart enough to never trust them again.
No, I don't agree with that. Don't forgive them. That's the first thing you don't do. Be smarter. No. If they smite you on one cheek, smite them back on the one cheek.
And that's why it's a yin-yang marriage.
We can talk about it off camera. No, don't hit me.
I know you're my bulldog.
Hit back harder. Hit back harder. I have a stick called attitude adjuster.
Well, I am a Scorpio.
Well,
So
that's even better yet.
So,
That's even better yet.
but moving on from there,
Hey, thanks, Zola. You've given me an opportunity to
rant.
oh, and also, like I said, I hope this is all right.
I hope this is all right. Thank you, Alfred, for the cup. It suits him many times, but not all of the time. Thank God.
We'll be back tomorrow night with the reading
Okay.
and not more storytelling.
More storytelling. Ashe. Your website is www.odiehawkins.com, and it is
It.
this time.